Hi, good evening. Welcome to the Maryville Cares show here this evening that is going to really explore a really important service here in the city of Chicago. I'm Amy Kendall, the director of the Maryville Crisis Nursery here in Chicago. That is a program that is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to provide crisis childcare to families who have children 7 and under, where a family can voluntarily have their children stay with us so that way they can tend to the things that they need to do. And so just to start us out, that is an important service for the city of Chicago. In addition to my guest here, Liz Gonzalez, who is a partner of the Crisis Nursery through Lurie Children's Hospital, and she is going to share with us her program that she runs in terms of supporting families and children.
Perfect. Hi, yes, I'm Liz Gonzalez. I am from the Connect Teen program at Lurie Children's Hospital, and we are a coordinated intake program. And so what that means is that we connect pregnant people and families with young children to home visiting programs. Should I do the slides?
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about what that means regarding home visiting. Can you explore that a little bit with us?
Definitely. Home visiting is one of those unique programs that once you know about it, you love it. But sometimes people aren't familiar with it. So they're usually housed within social service organizations, sometimes healthcare organizations. We have partners all across the city of Chicago, and we have about 30 in our network, which is great so far. But what home visiting is, it's a social service that supports families. And I always explain it kind of in two parts. So the first half is really specific to that family's needs. So if they're trying to get connected to different services, so things like the crisis nursery, WIC, childcare, even sort of resources and actual equipment. So if they need a car seat to have safe traveling with their child, if they are looking for a safe sleep situation so they can get them cribs, cribettes, things like that. So that's very tailored and kind of the family identifies what those needs look like. And then the other part is really universal. So those are things like throughout the pregnancy, what to expect during each trimester, what to expect for labor and delivery. Once the baby's born, things like child development. So, feeding, sleeping, kind of the different development and those kind of ages and stages that you want to track and make sure that they're on track. So if they need additional services like speech therapy, things like that, they can be identified. So I did include some slides. So are they live? There we go. So most home visiting is funded through HRSA, which is a national agency, and it's in their maternal and child health kind of division, which holds what we call MCV in the home visiting world. And MCV stands for Maternal, Infant, Early Childhood Home Visiting. And so this just is a great little list because it kind of shows you the benchmarks of home visiting. So what are what are the goals for these families in home visiting? So we have improved maternal and newborn health, improved school readiness and achievement, getting them ready for kindergarten. These programs are for prenatal up to usually about the age of 3, though some extend to the age of 5. Improve family economic self-sufficiency, so making sure that, we talked about things like childcare. Okay, are they going back to work? Do they need help finding a job? Do they need help, supporting their family? A big one is reducing child injuries. So we talked about car seats, safe sleep, but also child abuse and neglect as well. Reducing crime or domestic violence, getting them referred to different services that they might need throughout. And then finally, improve coordination and referrals for community resources. So again, getting those, really specific needs that they have, whether that might be safer housing or going back to school and getting their GED or their high school diploma. The home visiting program usually will set goals with that person and try to make them, reach them as they go on. So.
Yeah, I mean, what's beautiful about this program is that we're really able to, what I hear you saying is that it really provides a huge support system to that family.
Definitely.
And even to the point where it could go on for months and even years, right? Because we know those times as a new parent are wroth with lots of different challenges under the best of circumstances. And so it's wonderful that as a parent that you can tap into something like this that can kind of walk alongside with you.
Yes, definitely. It's been really great, especially throughout the last 2 years. Everyone, has been under tremendous amounts of stress, actually 2.5 years at this point, with COVID. So, imagining having a baby in like April of 2020, you don't have that regular support. You might not be able to have grandma and grandpa coming by or friends, family to support you. So these home visitors are able to support those families in that way, which is really nice. Also, for those who still aren't quite comfortable with the idea of someone coming into their home, there are other ways that they can work with them as well. So virtual, especially during COVID, was a big one, whether it's online platform, phone calls, checking in, also meeting somewhere kind of in the middle. So whether it's the program itself, their space, their community rooms, meeting at a public place like a fast food restaurant play space or a library, and then we're starting to get into the cooler months now, but meeting outside and having that available as well. So it really is, it's great because that home visitor can become that person that family might go to, that mom will go to when they have questions, when they're, burnt out, when they're concerned about something. I actually, this summer was really exciting. I was able to attend a graduation for a Healthy Families program. And so in that program, these families were there from prenatal and their kids are now 5 and going into kindergarten.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, and there was, I mean, they obviously do a great job at, retaining these families because there were about 10 of them.
That's fantastic.
So yeah, it was really nice to see, like, okay, they've been supported, since, before I was in my role, because I started here in 2018. So.
Well, and I think, it really becomes an extension of your family in that we know that relationships matter.
Yes.
And how that program was able to maintain those relationships, to kind of have a trusted resource coming to them consistently through a pandemic.
Yeah. And
be able to shine on a very special day, because those first few years, obviously, we know how critical it is. And it sounds like in that example, they really touched upon many of the different objectives that home visiting is trying to accomplish when we're really trying to get kids ready for kindergarten, right? Mm-hmm. And not just for kindergarten, but just to feel safe and comfortable in the world, and just be able to learn how to develop a friendship with somebody and play with others, and all those other social and emotional dynamics that are going on that had to be put on hold in some ways, although we obviously all tried to accommodate that. But for them to come back in person and be able to have that type of joy had to really be very special.
It was wonderful, and it was a rainy day, but it was still so much fun. The kids had a great time, and all the moms, you could just see how proud they were because they completed it too. That's what's nice about home visiting, because it really is about the parent and the child. And I do say mom a lot, but fathers or any other caregiver are welcome. In most programs, some do have requirements on mom only, but we have in our program even we've seen grandparents who are serving as their caregivers, fathers, so really just supporting whoever is taking care of that child and the child themselves. So it's been really great. I would love to kind of show a visual on my slides. So this is a really great little, I think they're called infographics, from 0 to 3, which 0 to 3 is a national organization for early childhood, and they're incredible. But I really, really like this one because it really, each window of the house kind of shows exactly what home visiting, you can expect. And again, obviously this is pre-pandemic, no masks, things like that. But you can see they have a small child and they also have a new baby, and the home visitors coming up. And so just in those different windows of developmental screening, so again, making sure baby's on track, are they rolling over, are they doing tummy time and getting that neck support, when they're a little older, when should they be expecting to walk, to talk. A lot of times we get that information from our pediatrician's office, but sometimes, we might not be able to cover it, so that's what's nice. The home visitor can do that as well. child development and early learning. So yes, going, preschool, kindergarten, the social support. So, again, especially during COVID when you didn't have a lot of that interaction, if, you were alone, made a huge difference. And then those referrals to the different services and enrollment public benefits. Like I mentioned, WIC is a big one, but also Medicaid to have health insurance many times. SNAP for food stamps so they can get that service, and then just kind of additional things as well. Like I mentioned, childcare is always a big one. Housing is a big one in the populations we serve. So it's definitely great to see that.
Well, and I just want to point out with the 0 to 3, it is a really great resource for providers, but also for parents. There's a lot of really great articles and videos and different resources that, we know that the web has so many different choices, I guess we can say, but that one in particular, when you're talking about babies and sort of really getting the experts to give you sort of best practice, if you will, that is a really good resource, along with the American Academy of Pediatrics, which you're from Lurie Children's Hospital. I would think that you would promote that, and they have a wonderful website, the Healthy Families, or
I think Healthy Children.
Healthy Children.
Yeah. Yes, American Academy of Pediatrics is definitely our go-to sort of resource for sure, for families and for our partners. And I'm glad you mentioned that too, because it's been, and this actually kind of leads me into how we fit in with all this too, which is great. But it has been great to be able to work within the hospital and get, have those resources available. So I mentioned car seats and, cribs. So we actually are able to get those for our families that we work with because the Injury Prevention and Research Center at Lurie Children's has car seat classes and cribs that they can get for free or reduced prices. So it's nice to be able to kind of use all of our, our connections and fellow programs at the hospital to help the families that we support. And I did mention a lot that the different home visiting programs that exist. So I have on the screen, this is our infographic, and so this is kind of just how we operate. I mentioned we are coordinated intake, so what that means is it's my job to connect all these families to the programs. So again, throughout the city, social service agencies, hospitals, smaller, more neighborhood-focused, community-based organizations. So, we have partners kind of across the whole city, which is great. From, I would say, from Rogers Park to Roseland.
So does that cover all of Cook County?
So I actually do have, we have several suburban partners as well. And I should say our name, Connect Teen, when we first got started, and a little bit of history too there, we really were focusing on the pregnant parenting youth, and specifically pregnant parenting students within Chicago public schools. However, like many people, COVID kind of had to derailed our plan a little bit, and we had to change what we were doing. So our main, pre-March 2020, our main focus was really students and going into schools and talking to their pregnant parenting students. And during that time of COVID, and obviously for like almost that whole year when people were e-learning, we kind of had to pivot and think about other options. So we started working more with hospitals, DCFS, health centers, places like that, other, just community organizations, and we were able to get connected to older, and it's funny, it's ironic saying older when it's 25 or older, but older parents, because previously our focus was 24 and younger. So it's been great because so in our name, it still says teen, but we didn't want to change it just because we kind of had a little bit of brand recognition already with the name. And we're still working on connecting, which was kind of the whole play on words there. So we are still prioritizing that younger parenting population, but now we help anyone. And as I mentioned, we've had grandparents and everything, so it's great. But yeah, so this is just a really nice visual because it just kind of shows, and it does say youth in a lot of places, so it's changed a little bit. But The person is referred to us, whether that's a direct referral, if they've heard about us or received the information from someone, or it could be a social worker, a counselor, someone from the crisis nursery, who identifies someone, a parent, a family, someone who's expecting, and said, they could use a little bit extra support. So my job is to reach out to them. I speak to them, I explain what home visiting is, and then I get them connected to a program. And like I mentioned, we have over 20, actually I wouldn't say like 25, like actual agencies and over 30 programs, because some agencies have multiple programs. And going back to location, when we started again, we also were very focused with obviously Chicago Public Schools, staying, with Chicago. And then more and more we've gotten, suburban referrals. And it doesn't surprise me because there are a lot of great labor and delivery hospitals just outside the city. So, Evanston, Oak Park, Oak Lawn. So when we get those referrals, we're able to connect them, and that's mainly Cook County, but I've had, DuPage and Lake and even Will sometimes. So I've actually even had a family that was moving to Indiana and one that moved to Michigan. And thankfully with the, the network of home visiting across the country, I was able to get them connected to services as well. So
yeah, that's really fantastic. One of the things I wanted to double check is this typically for a parent who has their first child, or can it be for, a second or third child?
Yeah, so it depends on the model. So I didn't mention all the different models, and again, this is part of why my job exists, is because there are so many different models, and the baby has to be between this age and mom needs to be under this age, and so it's kind of my job to retain all that information, mostly in my head right now. My boss has been joking that I need to put it all on paper so when I'm out that she can do it, but I literally have like flow charts for some programs to make sure I know. So it just depends on the program. So we have Healthy Families, which that is typically for a first-time mother, and they also need to enroll either prenatally or when the baby is about. And it's changed again with COVID, a little bit more flexible. It used to be under 2 weeks, then it was 2 months, and now I think it might be even more, but definitely more of an infant than like a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
But I do get referrals for like 2-year-olds. So we have other programs. So we have Parents as Teachers, which is a curriculum that many programs use. Early Head Start, and so that's 3 and under. And then Baby Talk. And so again, sometimes it's the model, sometimes it's the funder who kind of makes the rules on, first-time parent versus multiple parents. And within Chicago, we have a couple different home visiting funders. Typically, though, it's through DFSS, which is the City of Chicago's Department of Family Support Services. It could be DHS, the Department of Human Services out of the state of Illinois, ISB, the Illinois State Board of Education, or sometimes Start Early, which was formerly the Ounce of Prevention. So yes, a lot of information, which is why my job exists, to kind of be able to help people connect, because, and also sometimes those programs are full or they might be understaffed. We know right now, the way the workforce has been with people trying to hire new people, it's been slow at sometimes. So just making sure that, these families aren't sitting on wait lists, they're not just waiting to be served, they're actually getting the support they need. Because, so much can change from when a baby is born to when they're a couple months old, like during that time. It's a stressful period, like you said, like those first couple of months. So we want to make sure they're supported and they get into a program as soon as possible.
Well, and I like what you were saying about the areas, Dr. Brazelton from years ago talked about touch points. And when you brought up earlier about feeding and sleeping, and those are just 2 critical times for parents when just trying to negotiate all that. If a parent's breastfeeding or formula feeding, or, what their sleep arrangements are for the child. There's that whole individuality of that baby that has to be considered.
Yeah.
And it's challenging, I have found, with families, and for myself when my kids were little, is just recognizing that we kind of have to meet them where they're at, not where we thought they might be based on something we read or what we think should be. And obviously, as you described, safety is such a really important dynamic here, and we've learned from our our past, and we've learned from other caretakers in our own family, and sometimes that was modeled really well, and sometimes maybe we decided we wanted to do it different. So, you know, you talking about home visiting, I think one of the things that I have seen over the years is the value of being able to have those conversations with a trusted individual and try and negotiate that in a way, or figure out what is it that I do really want for my baby, when maybe other people are saying other things. It's just an opportunity for a parent who's doing something they've never could imagine until that happens. And that's, you know, in considering, also considering those children who might have some health related issues that may need some sensitivities as well. So how do you incorporate that in making sure things are going to be okay?
Yeah. And again, you know, going back to Lurie, being within Lurie, you know, we have a lot of really wonderful health services. So for people, for children with different kind of, you know, whether it's a disease or a malformation, and it's hard when you get that first diagnosis. Like, you know, the baby you were expecting had something going on, and this is the new normal. And so we've received some of those. And again, you know, it's not necessarily maybe about like, well, they need a car seat or that. They just need support. They need support going through their like day-to-day, you know, their mom with a child with special needs now, and how are they gonna, you know, move forward and support that child and still support themselves, and that's a big part of it as well.
Well, and the other thing that I think about is learning how to ask the others the right questions, because sometimes it can be so consuming that you're not even sure, you know, you have something on your mind, or you're not really sure how to explain it. And that home visitor, I feel like, is the one that would be real sensitive to that, to be able to kind of give you that support. You know, it's really important. What I realize is that you even have the opportunity for families to text you if they're interested in information about the Connect Teen home visiting program. And so what I'd like to do is show that information on the screen for you, so that way if you have questions, that's information there, that the phone number, Liz, maybe while we're waiting, if you can maybe share the phone number there.
Yeah, you can call or text us at 312-771-3028. If you have any questions, if you're, you know, you're expecting, you have a child under the age of 3, you can also look at our webpage on the Lurie Children's website. So it's luriechildrens.org/connecteen, and you can email us as well. But yes, having texting capabilities has been a game changer. We were able to get that during COVID. I was able to get a program cell phone, and it's incredible when, you know, you call someone, they don't answer, and then you just send them a text and say, hey, it's Liz from Connect Teen at Lurie Children's Hospital. I'm just calling to, you know, talk about some support for you throughout your pregnancy, and boom, they call me right back. So it's been really nice. And, you know, obviously we work standard working hours, but I try to, you know, respond in as timely manner as possible. And I typically work a little bit later into the evening to accommodate, you know, folks who might be working as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and again, that call or text is 312-771-3028. And really, this is an opportunity for a pregnant or parenting mother, or if you know of anybody in your family that you think could use some additional guidance. You know, we recognize that when we're raising our children, it really does take a village, right? And that additional support for all the family members, because things are changing with vaccines and with, you know, really recognizing what you should expect at certain times, and ways to sort of help the children thrive, is a way that your program really is outstanding, to be able to make sure that we're going to get people connected I mean, I love that word. I always say to our staff at the nursery, what's their circle of support? Because we all have a circle of support. And that's really what you're doing. You're promoting that.
Yes.
Whether you have a child who's a baby or even older. I mean, even ourselves. We're connected to each other in ways that hopefully are going to make, help families thrive and be stronger. And any last thoughts on anything else you'd like to share today?
Well, thank you for having me.
Of course.
And
it's been
again,
wonderful.
Yes, we love having the Crisis Nursery at Maryville as one of our partners. And we're always looking to support our home visiting programs as well. So yes, bringing in, additional partners. So we've had you come and speak to our group before, and some different programs and different resources that we can continue to share with our families. So always just, the ultimate goal is just to support the families we work with. So,
well, thank you for joining us this evening. And we look forward to our time with you next month. And again, we want to just make sure you have the phone number to our Connect Teen program at Lurie Children's Hospital, which the phone number is 312-771-3028. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.